Okay, today I am reviewing Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. And I also want to comment, first of all, that this edition that I have is called the Agatha Christie Facsimile Edition. It is a reprint of how the original cover looked, and I'm starting to slowly collect these. These are awesome. I love the cover art. I love the size of the book. They're amazing. I can only get them through Amazon in the UK, but if you're a Christie fan, you might want to grab these. They're a lot of fun, and they're pretty reasonable. Okay, this book has, first of all, Poirot is retired. He's left London and he's moved to the country. He's bought a house, so we see him in a rural setting, and he's decided to grow vegetable marrows, basically root vegetables. Hastings is not in this story. Hastings has moved to Argentina. So we have a different narrator, a narrator by the name of Dr. Shepherd, who takes on the Hastings role in this as the recorder of Poirot's mystery. Now, there are some similarities and some differences between Hastings and Dr. Shepherd. Dr. Shepherd is older, and we get the impression right off the bat that Dr. Shepherd is much wiser than Hastings. He records facts logically, and he is like Hastings in that he doesn't arrive at the same conclusions as Poirot does. So Poirot is carrying out his little ideas, as he's fond of saying, and Shepherd, like Hastings, has no idea. Shepherd's a little bit more reticent. He doesn't say exactly what he thinks Poirot is up to, whereas Hastings is usually just the first to blurt out this idea that he has. The other character that's important to this is Dr. Shepherd's sister, a spinster by the name of Caroline. And she's a direct antecedent of Agatha Christie's other famous detective, Miss Marple. She's a woman who's a busybody. She knows everything about everyone around town. She makes guesses about everything. She goes and she gossips. She learns things usually before even the doctor knows them. She tries to get information out of Poirot. She's a little less wise than her detective counterpart. Miss Marple's a very wise character and probably a little bit more thoughtful and able to make more correct judgments, but in a lot of ways Caroline is very wise about some of the characters. I just have notes here because there's so many wonderful things in this story. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the tone. I think that this book is Christie's first mature work. The tone of it is much more serious. While there's still humor in it, a lot of interesting humor, and Poirot still gets that twinkle in his eyes, and his eyes glow bright green when he gets his ideas, and people make fun of his eccentricities. The tone overall is much more mature and less, I guess for lack of a better word, less silly than others. And this is a story, this novel really pushed Christie to the forefront of the mystery genre. I mean, it really set her apart because of the audacity of this plot. And the other thing, the characters in here, everyone's got a secret to hide. This story has everyone under suspicion. Everyone has a reason for not telling the truth, and everyone wants to tell their story. So you've got people revealing things at different places, and it's basically like putting together pieces of a puzzle. Everyone's contributing, so we get a better idea of what's going on here. This focuses around, of course, Roger Ackroyd, who is a rich man, and he's found dead one night in his study with a knife in his neck. And this happens close on the heels of another death in the town, the death of Mrs. Ferrers. But she has killed herself. She's taken an overdose of medication. And so we've got two murders in this, and we have a suspicion of a murder in retrospect. The reason that Mrs. Ferrers is thought to have committed suicide is because her husband died under very suspicious circumstances, and it is thought that she did him in. The one thing I want to do is read just a portion, because this is a brilliant piece where Poirot, who we... In retrospect, reading this now, I assume that he knows already who the murderer is, but he describes the type of person this murderer is. So, I'll start with the Dr. Shepard's narration. Poirot was silent for a minute, watching the curling smoke rise from his cigarette. When at last he spoke, it was in a gentle, far-away voice that produced a curious impression. It was totally unlike his usual manner. Let us take a man, a very ordinary man, a man with no idea of murder in his heart. There is in him somewhere a strain of weakness deep down. It has so far never been called into play. Perhaps it will never be, and if so, he will go to his grave honored and respected by everyone. But let us suppose that something occurs. He is in difficulties, or perhaps not that even. He may stumble by accident on a secret involving a life or death to someone. And this first impulse will be to speak out, to do his duty as an honest citizen. And then the strain of weakness tells. Here is a chance of money, a great amount of money. He wants money. He desires it, and it's so easy. He has nothing to do for it, just keep silent. That is the beginning. The desire for money grows. He must have more and more. He is intoxicated by the gold mine which is opened at his feet. He becomes greedy, and in his greed he overreaches himself. One can press a man as far as one likes, but with a woman one must not press too far, for a woman has at heart a great desire to speak the truth. How many husbands who have deceived their wives go comfortably to their graves carrying their secret with them? How many wives who have deceived their husbands wreck their lives by throwing the fact in those same husbands' teeth? They have been pressed too far, in a reckless moment which they will afterwards regret. They fling safety to the winds and turn at bay, proclaiming the truth with great momentary satisfaction to themselves. So it was, I think, in this case. The strain was too great, and so there came your proverb, the death of the goose that laid the golden eggs. But that is not the end. Exposure faced the man of whom we are speaking, and he is not the same man he was, say, a year ago. His moral fiber is blunted. He is desperate. He is fighting a losing battle, and he is prepared to take any means that come into his hand, for exposure means ruin to him. And so, the dagger strikes. I thought that was a really interesting quote, and really shows Agatha Christie's writing off to its advantage. Really interesting things that she says. Again, she's always saying things about men and women. I think the relationships, the differences, the similarities between men and women are very important to her. We also get a little bit into her approach to psychology and the psychology of criminals and how they might approach something, how anyone can be a murderer, how it's not just the hardened criminal, it's not just the sinister villain with the twisted mustache from the silent films, but it can be anyone. Okay, so who are our possible suspects? Poirot's talking about a man in his quote, but he could easily be talking about a woman as well. Who do we have? We've got Roger Ackroyd's sister, who's kind of a silly woman, desperate for money. Her daughter, also reckless with her money and in need of money. His adopted son, who has disappeared for most of the story. We've got this dashing young secretary, male secretary to Roger Ackroyd, who's always very pleasant and very well put together. We've got a colonel who has been out of the country for some time. We've just got so many characters. We've got a maid who isn't all that she seems to be. We even have the butler. Did the butler do it? So many possibilities. And in this case, we find out that the murder was in fact... Next week, next time, I'm going to be reviewing the next novel, which is The Big Four, another Poirot novel. So we'll take a look at that.